Our country passing 2 milestones tonight on its grim journey into the unknown. The number of people dying of COVID-19 passing the 50,000 mark. Also today, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alaska becoming the first states to lower their guard against coronavirus in a big way, easing lockdown orders and allowing certain businesses, including salons and barbershops, to reopen, despite broad concerns that officials are opening the door to more cases. Our correspondent's ready to break it all down for us. Let's start with Blaine Alexander.
From buzzing barbershops to sweaty gyms and hair and nail salons, Georgia is, at least partially, back in business.
I was really surprised when they said the barbershops were opening, but I was so excited because I look like a caveman.
Governor Brian Kemp allowing salons, gyms, barbershops, tattoo parlors, bowling alleys, and more to reopen today. It's not a choice shop owner Tony Roberts took lightly.
When I weighed the risk reward, we decided to go ahead and open and put our plans in place.
He has been getting calls since Monday, but only taking limited customers with new precautions. No waiting inside, the chairs spread out, and nobody is allowed in without a mask.
The thing that scares me is I'm just not sure if the new normal will be suitable for what we do.
Governor Kemp says his move is informed by data and public health recommendations, but the state has not met White House guidelines for 2 weeks of declining cases. President Trump says he strongly disagrees with Kemp.
I didn't like to see spas at this early stage. Spas, beauty parlors, tattoo parlors. No, I want them to open, and I want them to open as soon as possible. And I want the state to open. But I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp.
Neither were these protesters in Atlanta, all upset with Kemp's decision. One restaurant worker tells NBC's Sam Brock,
"We're not disposable just because, we're low-income people."
And this Savannah salon is staying closed.
Money will eventually show up, but if something happens to someone, we can't replace people.
But at this gym, owner Brian Wetzel has made changes to welcome his clients back, and they are thrilled.
There's actually less people in the gym right now than there would be at a grocery store.
More openings across the country, including in Alaska, where business owners are split.
There's a fear factor of reopening, but at some point in time, we have to try.
To think that we would be open before the 5th of May seems crazy.
And today in Oklahoma, the governor allowing all spas, salons, and pet grooming places to reopen.
What have you been telling customers when they walk through your doors?
You have to have a mask. There's no waiting. I want people to be able to come and get a good haircut, not leave with COVID.
In neighboring Texas, there is still a stay-at-home order. Salon owner Shelley Luther received a citation, but is staying open, saying she can't afford not to.
It is their personal choice as an American to come into the salon if they want to, and they have that right.
And restaurant owner Matt Rice is opening tonight despite receiving conflicting signals. Our Morgan Chesky is there.
Your mayor says you can open. The governor says you can't. Where does that put you?
Right in the middle.
What do you do?
I open. I think it's the right thing to do.
Tonight, Iowa's governor announcing as of Monday, elective surgeries can resume and farmers markets can reopen. Elsewhere, calls to lift lockdowns are growing louder, including people taking to the streets in Wisconsin. Though a new poll suggests many Americans are concerned about moving too fast. 80% say if restrictions were lifted tomorrow, they are unlikely to go to places that draw crowds. Back in Atlanta, Tony says he and his wife barely made it through the last 6 weeks.
If it had not been for her, my colleagues, it would have been really tough.
Back to business, but nowhere near business as usual. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Atlanta.
As states and cities weigh in on getting back to business, the death toll hit another sobering milestone today. As we said, over 50,000 people killed by this virus already in America. And while some areas are now seeing a bend in the curve, some states are seeing their deadliest days yet. Here's Miguel Almaguer.
As our country battles an unprecedented pandemic, tonight our national death toll surpassing a grim benchmark, more than 50,000 lives lost. The staggering number of Americans gone could fill the stands at Coors Field in Denver. 2,400 people died yesterday alone. In the state of Illinois, where the curve is said to be flattening, a record number of deaths and cases has just been logged.
Right now, we're just going day to day. It seems like years.
Keeping a video diary on her birthday, Dr. Michelle Prickett enters another overnight shift at the ICU at Northwestern.
I think everyone on my team knows that life will never be usual again.
While cases are plateauing in big cities, in much of the heartland, the struggle continues. Over the past week, a daunting increase in the number of patients in states like Nebraska, Iowa, Arkansas, South Dakota, and Oklahoma. At this meat packing plant outside Green Bay, production hasn't stopped despite a growing number of sick employees. At Smithfield Foods in Sioux Falls, after a rash of COVID cases, the plant now given the okay by the CDC to reopen. Itzel Goitia says she caught the virus while working at a packing plant in Kansas.
It's impossible to social distance because, we're right next to people. We're touching boxes, we're touching labels, we're touching the meat.
Here in LA, where the death toll just spiked to another daily high, more people are dying from COVID-19 than anything else. 89% of those who passed away had an underlying health condition. Tonight, a nation balancing work, safety, and health as our death toll hits a heartbreaking high. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
And tonight, President Trump is facing widespread backlash after his comments wondering aloud about household disinfectants as a possible treatment for COVID-19, causing even the makers of Lysol to issue a warning. Here's Jeff Bennett.
President Trump tonight now says he wasn't being serious when he suggested multiple times Thursday that scientists should consider exposing the body to sunlight and disinfectants as potential coronavirus cures.
I was asking a question sarcastically to reporters like you just to see what would happen.
Earlier in the day, the White House press secretary offered a different explanation, accusing the media of irresponsibly taking the president's comments out of context. On Thursday, after a government scientist presented studies showing that sunlight and disinfectants are effective at killing coronavirus on surfaces, the president latched on.
So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
The president also asked if there's a way to use disinfectants inside the body.
Then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning, because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with.
Dr. Deborah Birx's reaction caught on camera. Top administration officials tell NBC News members of the president's coronavirus task force were shocked by those comments. They say he apparently misinterpreted scientific information discussed with him before Thursday's briefing. The president's remarks widely condemned by medical experts, including the Trump administration's former FDA commissioner.
There's no circumstance under which you should take a disinfectant or inject a disinfectant for the treatment of anything.
The Surgeon General tweeting his own caution, the maker of Lysol issuing a warning too. It's not the first time the president has floated a treatment idea as a possible game changer. He spent weeks hyping hydroxychloroquine pills as a potential coronavirus miracle drug, despite a lack of clinical evidence.
We're sending them to the hospitals. We're sending them all over. I just think it's something, the expression, I've used it for certain reasons. What do you have to lose?
The FDA today issuing new guidance warning that people should not take chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine to treat coronavirus outside of hospital settings or clinical trials, citing reports of serious heart rhythm problems. At the end of today's coronavirus task force press briefing, the president, for the first time, walked out without taking any questions. And late today, Dr. Deborah Birx offered yet another explanation for the president's comments about using light and disinfectants as potential coronavirus treatments. She says the president, in her words, was still digesting the scientific information officials shared when he made those remarks. Lester?
All right, Jeff Bennett, thank you. Also developing tonight, top Navy officials are recommending that the fired commander of the USS Theodore Roosevelt be reinstated. You may recall he was relieved of his command after sounding the alarm about coronavirus on his ship. Here's Peter Alexander.
This was the scene when Captain Brett Crozier disembarked the USS Theodore Roosevelt for the last time. A rousing send-off earlier this month from the thousands of sailors he fought to protect. And tonight, Crozier's getting support from the Navy's top brass, recommending he be reinstated as commander of his ship. That recommendation tonight delivered to Defense Secretary Mark Esper, who's now deciding whether to sign off. If Crozier's command is restored, it'll mark a whirlwind reversal 3 weeks after the captain's dismissal for sending a letter to Navy leaders begging for help for his ship's crew, hard hit by a coronavirus outbreak. More than 850 sailors on the aircraft carrier have since tested positive. One later died. "We are not at war," Crozier wrote late last month. "Sailors do not need to die." Then acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modly blamed Crozier for not appropriately going through the chain of command after the letter was published in a San Francisco newspaper.
That demonstrated extremely poor judgment in the middle of a crisis.
Modly resigning after fierce criticism for these disparaging remarks about Crozier to the Roosevelt's crew.
He was A, too naive or too stupid to be the commanding officer of a ship like this.
Tonight, with the Navy behind him, Captain Crozier's still awaiting his fate. Peter Alexander, NBC News, Washington.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.